Carla Connor has weathered fires, floods, breakdowns, and betrayals on Coronation Street for nearly 2 decades. But it's a single quiet detail from a heartbreaking hospital storyline that has fans reaching for the tissues this week, and it has nothing to do with explosions or affairs. It's a name. Just a name, flashing up on screen as Carla rushed through the doors of Weatherfield General. And that tiny detail has sent Coronation Street's fanbase into an emotional spiral online, with viewers saying it's one of the most quietly powerful character moments the soap has delivered in years. So, what exactly did fans spot? Why does it matter so much? And what does it tell us about where Carla Connor's story is heading next? Let's get into it. If you've been following Coronation Street even loosely over the past few months, you'll know that Carla Connor and DS Lisa Swain have become one of the most talked about couples in the show's history. Their relationship began as a slow-burn friendship, built on trust and shared trauma, before blossoming into a full-blown romance that fans nicknamed Swarla. After a rocky road that included the shocking return of Lisa's presumed dead wife Becky, a corrupt police cover-up, a kidnapping storyline, and no fewer than 2 ruined proposal attempts, Lisa finally popped the question outside Underworld, and the 2 women tied the knot this spring in a wedding that was widely celebrated as a genuine first for British soap opera, a same-sex wedding that, for once, went off without a last-minute disaster tearing it apart on the day itself. And it's here that the detail fans are now talking about begins to take shape. When Carla and Lisa married, the show made a quiet but deliberate choice. Rather than Carla simply taking her wife's surname the way she'd taken the names of her previous husbands, Paul Connor, Tony Gordon, Peter Barlow, both women were instead credited and referred to on screen as Connor Swain. It was a small change on paper, barely a line of text during the closing credits, but it carried real symbolic weight. For a character whose entire arc has often been defined by the men she attached herself to and the identities she lost along the way, taking a shared, hyphenated name rather than simply absorbing her wife's felt like something new. It wasn't Carla disappearing into someone else's story. It was 2 women choosing each other equally. Fast forward to this week, and that detail has come roaring back into focus in the most gut-wrenching way imaginable. Coronation Street kicked off a harrowing new storyline centered on Lisa's teenage daughter, Betsy Swain, played by Sydney Martin. Betsy, viewers will remember, has had her fair share of chaotic subplots since arriving in Weatherfield, from blackmail schemes to run-ins with the police. But this new storyline is a different beast entirely, dealing sensitively with the terrifying realities of strangulation and its aftermath, a subject Coronation Street has approached in careful collaboration with the Institute for Addressing Strangulation, the Stroke Association, and the charity Saphaline. The episode opened with a scene designed to keep viewers guessing and on edge. An ambulance screamed toward Weatherfield General, but for several tense minutes, nobody watching knew who was inside it. Then Carla came sprinting into A&E, panic written across her face, and ran straight into Ryan Connor, who told her only that he'd found someone collapsed on the kitchen floor with the tap still running. The dialogue was deliberately vague, leaving fans unsure for a nail-biting stretch whether it was Betsy or Lisa who had been rushed in. It was only as the episode headed toward its first ad break that the truth landed. It was Betsy, unconscious, with her mother Lisa sitting at her bedside holding her hand. What followed was some of the most emotionally intense television Coronation Street has produced in a long while. Doctors initially believed Betsy might have suffered a stroke, only for the situation to spiral further when she suffered a second stroke in the hospital itself, sending the entire Connor Swain family into a state of sheer panic. Lisa, normally so composed in her role as a detective sergeant, was reduced to repeating through tears that her daughter hadn't had a stroke, refusing to accept what doctors were telling her, while Carla held her together as best she could. It was raw, frightening, and about as far from soap opera melodrama as you can get. It felt real. And it was in the middle of this chaos, this genuinely distressing hospital sequence, that eagle-eyed fans noticed the detail that's now dominating conversation across social media and soap fan forums. As hospital staff addressed Carla directly, asking for information as next of kin and family, she was referred to not as Carla Connor, the name she's carried through most of her time on the cobbles, but as Carla Connor Swain. It appeared fleetingly, almost incidentally, in the kind of moment most viewers might scroll straight past. But for longtime fans who've watched Carla's journey for nearly 20 years, it landed like an emotional gut punch in the best possible way. Viewers took to social media in droves to point out what that small detail actually represented. This wasn't just a couple who'd had a nice wedding a few months earlier. This was Carla, standing in a hospital corridor in the worst moment of her stepdaughter's young life, being treated by the world around her, by doctors, by hospital staff, by the script itself, as genuinely and unquestionably part of that family. Not a girlfriend. Not a partner hovering on the sidelines. A mother figure, present at the worst possible moment, using a name that legally and emotionally bound her to Betsy just as much as it bound her to Lisa. Fans flooded comment sections and fan pages, saying the detail brought them to tears, with many pointing out that it's exactly the kind of subtle, unglamorous storytelling choice that makes a soap feel lived in rather than scripted. 1. Recurring sentiment across fan discussion was that after everything Carla has been through, the fires, the breakdowns, the men who let her down, the years of being defined by tragedy, seeing her simply be present, unquestioned, as Betsy's stepmother in a genuine family crisis felt like a quiet triumph in itself. Television commentators covering the soap have echoed that reaction, framing the strangulation and stroke storyline as one of Coronation Street's boldest and most sensitively handled dramas in recent memory, precisely because it doesn't lean on shock value for its own sake. Instead, the show has used the crisis to deepen the emotional stakes for the entire Connor Swain household, reinforcing just how far Carla and Lisa's relationship has come since those early days of stolen glances and unspoken feelings at the Rovers' return. So, what does this all mean going forward? For Betsy, the road ahead looks difficult. The show has made clear that her recovery will involve grappling with the physical and psychological aftermath of what's happened to her, and given Coronation Street's collaboration with charity organizations on this storyline, it seems likely the show intends to portray that recovery journey in detail over the coming weeks, rather than wrapping it up quickly. Fans are already speculating about who exactly was responsible for what happened to Betsy, with suspicions swirling around several characters in her orbit, and it's a fair bet that unraveling that mystery will drive much of the drama through the summer. For Carla and Lisa, though, this storyline appears to be less about testing their relationship and more about solidifying it in the eyes of viewers. After a turbulent engagement marked by Becky's dramatic return from the dead, a kidnapping ordeal, and enough near-miss weddings to fill an entire series, the Connor Swains have finally reached a point where the show is treating their family unit as simply that, a family, full stop, complete with all the messy, terrifying, unconditional love that comes with it. Some fans are speculating that this hospital crisis could be the moment that finally allows Carla to step fully into a maternal role with Betsy, something that's been gently teased since Betsy first arrived in Weatherfield but never quite been given the spotlight it perhaps deserved. Others are wondering whether the trauma of nearly losing Betsy might push Lisa and Carla to reconsider expanding their family further down the line, though that remains firmly in speculation territory for now. What's clear is that Coronation Street has managed to turn a single line of hospital dialogue into a moment that fans are genuinely still talking about days later, proof that sometimes the smallest details land the hardest. It's a reminder that after nearly 2 decades on the cobbles, Alison King's Carla Connor can still surprise her audience, not with a dramatic twist or a shocking reveal, but with something as simple and as moving as a name. So that's the story dominating Coronation Street conversation this week. A devastating storyline for Betsy Swain, and a small but powerful detail that's reminded fans just how far Carla and Lisa's journey has come. What did you think when you spotted it? Were you one of the fans who caught the Connor Swain detail in real time, or did it fly under your radar until now? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Coronation Street news, spoilers, and updates as this Betsy storyline continues to unfold. We'll see you in the next one.